Saturday, June 5th, 1976 was a beautiful day. People were working in their yards, kids were playing, customers were shopping, and many of them were listening to the radio when they heard the news that would change their lives.
My dad turned on the radio and heard that the Teton Dam was breaking.
I remember that we heard the radio announcement and the television announcement that a flood had hit Rexburg.
I had the radio on. KRXK. Don Ellis came on, and he was so excited that something terrible was happening.
That goes the whole complete side of the north edge of the Teton Dam. And the water in monumental, holy, great. What can I say? People downstream better get out. People downstream better get out. Now back to the studio.
With that clear warning, people started to evacuate to higher ground, but they had no idea how much water was going to inundate the area. Linda Flam, who lived on Center Street in Rexburg, packed up her 2 kids in a diaper bag with graham crackers, bananas, and 4 or 5 diapers.
Didn't think to take anything else, left it all at home. My husband, in the meantime, had come home, and he moved a couple of sacks of flour up onto the kitchen table. And he, I think he actually draped the drapes up off of the floor.
The Flams were lucky. They didn't lose much, but other people did. The flooding at the Withers home on Gemini Drive in Rexburg was fairly typical.
We opened up the front door and was able to walk in. The flood mud had gone up to the electrical plugs in our upstairs. We opened our basement doors, and the water was sitting right there at the top stair. The rest of the basement was full of water.
The city of Rexburg says 90% of people affected by the flood lost 90% of their possessions. 11 people died as a result of the flood, and thousands of head of livestock were lost. Congress initially passed a $200 million relief bill to help flood victims. When President Gerald Ford signed the bill in September, he said, "Today, I am signing a bill which provides legislative authority for the compensation of personal and property damage sustained by the victims of the flood. Many of these claims have already been settled, and the money is now at work rebuilding the lives of the survivors. The legislation which I signed today ensures that this vital aid will continue. Let me thank the members of Congress for their strong bipartisan support of this measure. I know, for example, how hard the Idaho delegation worked on it. Great credit must also be given to the many volunteer and church groups represented here today, which played such a key role in the initial relief efforts. Each of them displayed great courage under exceptionally difficult conditions. Together, the public and private sectors of this great country have extended the victims not just our sympathy, but a strong and steady helping hand." The volunteer and church groups were a lifeblood for the flood survivors. Many of them came from Utah and other states to help muck out homes and move debris. Decades after first seeing the volunteers, Chris Leishman still tears up.
With all those people, shovels and buckets coming off those buses, just for 50 years, every time I talk about it, I tear up. And when you have a wall of mud to clear out, it was just such an inspiration to see all those people come.
It wasn't just volunteers from out of state who helped. Ricks College, now BYU-Idaho, was on the hill. It's where people flocked to get above the floodwaters. School was out for the summer, so people were able to live in the student dorms. The college served more than 386,000 meals. Local leaders of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints jumped into action to make sure people were safe and had what they needed. Ricks College President Henry B. Eyring, who is now in the first presidency of the church, often refers to the Teton Dam flood in his general conference talks. In October of 2017, he remembered the faith and service he witnessed.
For example, when the Teton Dam broke, a Latter-day Saint family couple was traveling miles away from their home. As soon as they heard the news on the radio, they hurried back to Rexburg. Rather than going to their own home to see if it was destroyed, they went looking for their bishop. He was in a building that was being used as the recovery center. He was helping to direct the thousands of volunteers who were arriving in yellow school buses. The couple walked up to the bishop and said, "We just got back, Bishop. Where can we go to help?" He gave them the names of the family. That couple stayed mucking out mud and water in one home after another. They worked from dawn to dark for days. They finally took a break to go see about their own home. It was gone in the flood, leaving nothing to clean up. So they turned around quickly to go back to their bishop. They asked the bishop, "Do you have someone for us to help?"
For those who lived through the flood, the memories are still vivid 50 years after the disaster. They remember the pain of the destruction, but also the service, the shared experiences, and for many, the silver linings of the disaster.
How blessed we were. It was morning. It was not in the middle of the night, and we were able to get to safety.
It's amazing how an event as horrifying as they are actually bring people together to overcome that adversity.
The people of Rexburg, Sugar City, and eastern Idaho did overcome that adversity, Mick Brunson mentioned. Rexburg has grown from a town of fewer than 11,000 people to one of more than 40,000 today. That growing population is using more resources, especially water. The Teton Dam was originally approved and built for several reasons, including to control flooding along the Teton River, create power, provide water for irrigation, recreation, and drinking. The need for water storage has only grown in the 50 years since the dam broke. There's a growing movement to rebuild the Teton Dam. State Senator Kevin Cook of Idaho Falls says he's trying to get the ball rolling.
So the Teton Dam is in a good position for us to be able to save water and use it later in the year. We can use it for the aquifer recharge, which is what we need as well. But we also need water for our surface water users, for our farmers as well. And so holding that water back in the Teton Dam would be incredible.
Rexburg Mayor Jerry Merrill would also like to see some movement on the issue.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of rebuilding because the reasons for putting the dam in are still there.
Mayor Merrill says he believes the dam will be rebuilt. It could take some time, though, between 10 to 20 years at the earliest, between studies, finding the best spot, and overcoming any lingering hesitation. Hesitation that's easy to understand. Just a year after the flood, Ricks College, Utah State University, and the Idaho State Historical Society interviewed people about their flood experiences. The collection gives a wealth of experiences from men, women, and children who were impacted by the flood. Interviewers sometimes ask flood survivors if they were in favor of the dam being built. Most of them say yes. They also asked if they were in favor of the dam being rebuilt. They weren't always so sure about that. But one interview puts things in perspective. Gar Widdison said he hoped it would be rebuilt, but only if they put a farmer in charge that knows something about building. Here's what Zerua Moon, the wife of Sugar City's mayor, said when Raymond Widdison asked her about the dam.
Now, did you support the building of the Teton Dam when it was first constructed?
No, I didn't.
And has your feelings changed any now?
Personally, I'd just as lief they wouldn't have it. I mean, I can take a little bit of water. When it comes in great big bunches, it's too much. But however, I guess the farmers do say that it would help them if they could get it in a good place so that it'd stay there. But one flood's enough in a life. Too much.
Too much is right. It's estimated that 80 billion gallons of water swept through eastern Idaho when the dam broke. 80 billion gallons meant to be held back to prevent flooding, meant to be saved for farmers to grow crops, meant to be saved for recreation. Congress originally approved the dam in 1964, then actual work on the dam started in 72. According to the Bureau of Reclamation, the dam was finished in November of 75. It stood at 300 feet high, and by June 1st, it had 234,000 acre-feet of water. So what went wrong?
The big key is the key trench. They decided in order to save money, they came up with this unique design of cutting a key trench up each side of the dam or the abutments.
Nathaniel Gee is a dam safety engineer with the Bureau of Reclamation, and his new book, Failure and Fortitude, How Faith, Politics, and Power Shaped the Teton Dam Disaster, just came out in May with Cedar Fort Publishing. He says the designers realized they couldn't clear all the rock in the canyon, so they came up with this key trench idea. They would cut this trench and fill the rock with grout or a type of cement, but they had no idea how much it would take and didn't put it into the specifications. He says they also didn't put a filter on the key trench material. He says if you think about it like making pasta, you use a colander to filter the water out of the spaghetti. A filter would keep the key trench material in place.
And they didn't have a filter on this key trench. So essentially what happened is water entered upstream of the key trench, and then it went downstream of the key trench and took little bits of material of the dam with it. Little bit more, and they had compacted this material so it would stay together, which is good for a dam, but it's really bad once the material starts leaving because it doesn't collapse on itself until you've got a nice solid pipe. So now you got a pipe of material that's really going fast, water going fast, and it's taking more and more the edges of this pipe out until it eventually does collapse on itself. And then it takes more and collapses, more and collapses.
That's what was happening the morning of June 5th. It's what led to the collapse of the whole dam just before noon that day. For Richard Robison, telling the story of how the dam failed has become a type of calling. It was his uncle who was in charge of the project for the Bureau of Reclamation.
You know, it's easy to second guess things, and but the independent panel that studied the cause of failure determined, you know, without question that my uncle and his team that built the dam were not to blame, that the blame was entirely in the way the dam was designed and the fault of the Denver Design Office. And they could have specifically put things into the design that for some reason they chose not to.
Things like the amount of grout and the filter. According to the Bureau of Reclamation, Robert R. Robison found the initial leak 600 and 900 feet below the dam 2 days before it failed. On Friday, June 4th, he found another spring about 150 feet downstream. These leaks had clear water coming out of them. He would later testify that springs like this are normal for an embankment dam. But the next morning, a worker found muddy water coming out, and another. By 9:30 on June 5th, a wet spot started to wash out embankment material, and Robert Robison knew they were in trouble.
By then, my uncle had called in the early warnings to Madison and Fremont County sheriffs, and that's what Don Ellis heard. My uncle made that call, and then the sheriff called Don Ellis to tell him about it since he ran the radio station, and he had to see it for himself to believe it.
Don Ellis did have to see it for himself. He was the owner of KRXK. He hopped in his car with his daughter and left his son in charge of the radio station in Rexburg and went to the overlook of the dam. His voice has become synonymous with the flood.
This is hard to say for sure right now, but the whole north side of the dam is completely caving in. It's coming in completely. In the past couple of seconds, I can't describe or I can't even guess how much more of the dam has collapsed, but a tremendous amount of the north side of the dam has completely collapsed. The water is coming through from the reservoir side through that great big collapsed part of the dam, and it's just roaring mud, water, roaring and pouring down the Teton, the complete electrical plant, everything below it. They've lost caterpillars, vehicles, and everything down below there, and I don't know whether there's been any loss of life yet or not, but I don't know. We'll have to talk to Bureau people later. We can't say that for sure, but fantastic sight. What a sight.
Here's how Don Ellis remembered that day a year later.
She and I both ran out to the visitor's outlook, looked down at the dam, and even as we looked, why, these two large machines, bulldozers, tumbled in that hole that they talked about. That hole began to enlarge just as you watched, began to enlarge, and muddy water and what just looked like dust was coming out of the hole. It wasn't a very big gap at that time, but just as we watched, it began to get larger.
Those two large machines were D9 caterpillars, earth movers. The workers were hoping to plug the holes with dirt and giant rocks. Jay Calderwood was working on the reservoir side of the dam on another D9, trying to plug the hole from there.
We worked there for probably 20 minutes or so. It was quite frightening. We knew that it was dangerous, but we just kept pushing the rock, hoping that it would stifle the leak. Finally, Mr. Belligani said he felt the dam settle. And later he told us it settled. He felt it settled, so he waved us back. He told us to get back. There were two of us on the dozers, two dozers there working. We backed back up on top of the dam, and we was backing across the dam, and had the dozers in reverse. The dam fell down in front of us, caved off in front of us. And we was backing away. We kept thinking, it's going to cave in again, and it's going to cave in behind us and take us with it. But it never. We were going back fast enough to where we got back to safety before it widened up and completely gave way.
They were able to get out in time, but it was slow going.
Weren't you nervous? Oh, very much so. I'll say I was nervous. Every pass, you wondered, will this probably be my last one? All kinds of things go through your mind when you're working like that. But when we got on top of the dam, started backing away, then the top fell in. It fell clear in. But it wasn't too wide at that time. Too frightened to remember, but it seemed like maybe 30, 40 feet across, the first cave-in. And then a few seconds later, it started caving in more and getting wider continuously. Just kept getting wider and more, caving in, more water come through. It kept washing wider and wider. And then by the time we realized we were probably the safety, why, the gap was probably 150 feet wide at that time.
Calderwood was one of those interviewed who said he wanted the dam to be built again. And at the time of the interview in 1977, he was frustrated work hadn't already started. Whether the dam will be rebuilt or not is yet to be seen. For now, the Upper Valley is remembering the flood on the 50th anniversary. The city of Rexburg has events each day this week through Saturday. The events include walking tours, bus tours, guided river floats, films, a car show, a fashion show, service projects, and the Teton Dam Marathon. Jed Platt is the cultural arts director for the city. He's been working on the slate of activities for months. He says the week culminates with a celebration of service at BYU-Idaho.
And that, again, is just to end this whole week with the focus being on how we helped each other, served each other, and together we can get through hard things.
The concert will include choirs, orchestras, dancers, multimedia, and storytelling. Tickets are available on the Flood 50 website. Platt says you won't want to miss the walking tours on Main Street, too, where you can still see where the floodwaters reached in businesses and buildings like the Romance Theater.
We've actually done a blue tape line down Main Street to represent the water line. It's at 5 feet, and so you can get a context of this wasn't just in one building in the Romance when you see that this was everywhere downtown.
Yeah. You can also see exhibits on the BYU-Idaho campus about how Ricks College helped out during the flood. Once again, the city and the campus community are coming together for a common purpose. You can learn more about the Teton Dam flood and the activities this week at tetonflood50.org. For BYU-Idaho Radio, I'm Brandon Isle.